My name is Elaine Murray. I'm 36, a single mom doing my best to raise my 9-year-old boy, Finn. Nothing in my life could have warned me about the betrayal that would unfold during my niece's 8th birthday celebration at my parents' suburban Minnesota home. The memory still plays in my mind. Finn's muffled sobs, his bruised little face, food stains on his shirt, and his treasured baseball cards ripped apart and thrown across the floor. My sister and her friend laughed it off, calling it a harmless prank. "You're overreacting," they mocked. But I knew better. I saw the terror in Finn's eyes, the kind no child should ever have to feel. This wasn't playful teasing, it was intentional. They wanted to humiliate him, to crush his confidence. As realization hit me, my heart pounded. The very people I had trusted were the ones inflicting this cruelty. Each word they spoke sliced through me, years of unspoken resentment within the family crashing down like a storm. I stood frozen, hands trembling, knowing I had to face the truth, no matter how painful it was. What kind of family treats a child this way? How far would you go to protect someone you love? Stay with me as I reveal the shocking betrayal and how I found the courage to fight back. Have you ever had to confront your own family to defend someone dear to you? Tell me your story in the comments. I'll read them all. Raising Finn on my own has been the hardest yet proudest journey of my life. At 36, I've spent years rebuilding a stable world for us after divorcing Gary, Finn's father, a software engineer who moved to the opposite coast once we separated. I managed both motherhood and an accounting career from a modest Minnesota apartment. Every long evening buried in spreadsheets, every frantic drive to Finn's games or school performances felt worthwhile when I saw his bright smile and heard him talk about his baseball cards, his little sanctuary. My sister has always viewed me as competition, her jealousy shadowing every success I've had. When I was 17, I earned a full scholarship to a top university for my academic record and debate victories. She sabotaged it by sending false claims to the admissions office, accusing me of plagiarism. The offer was revoked, and I spent years drowning in student loans. My mother, Beatrice, never questioned her. Instead, she gifted my sister a red convertible at graduation, saying she deserved it for her hard work, brushing off my honors as meaningless. My father, Stanley, stayed silent, his quiet approval speaking louder than words. He'd take my sister on special trips, while my own achievements earned me nothing more than a brief good job. The sting of that favoritism never faded. Later, in college, I met Gary and fell in love completely. Gary and I once built our lives around shared dreams, talking late into the night about the future we wanted together. But my sister forced her way between us, showing up uninvited on our dates and quietly poisoning Gary's thoughts with her sugary malice. "She's not ready to settle down," she'd murmur, her voice coated in false concern. Her whispers took root. Soon, small disagreements turned into bitter fights, our once solid bond cracking under the weight of her manipulation. When I confronted my parents about it, Beatrice waved it off with her usual dismissiveness. "She's only trying to help you too." And Stanley, true to form, said nothing at all. When the marriage finally collapsed, I was left raising Finn alone, piecing our lives back together while my sister escaped without consequence. Finn discovered his love for baseball cards at 6, after Gary gave him a simple starter pack. That became his obsession. He'd spend hours sorting them by team and memorizing stats of legends like Kirby Puckett. His proudest treasure was a rare rookie card, one he'd saved his allowance to buy from Anita Wells at the neighborhood card shop. "Mom, this is my ticket to the big leagues," he'd tell me, gripping it like a championship medal. That card gave him confidence, a spark of happiness in a world where he often felt like an afterthought. The imbalance in our family only deepened over time. Beatrice spoiled my sister's kids with expensive toys, drones, gaming consoles, the latest gadgets, while Finn got used books, if he received anything at all. When I finally earned a promotion I'd worked toward for years, my mother barely reacted, instead gushing over my sister's short-lived real estate job. Stanley added, "She's got real business instincts," without so much as acknowledging my accomplishment. It wasn't ignorance, it was intentional, a clear effort to lift my sister up while pushing me down. I buried my resentment for Finn's sake, convincing myself that some family, even a broken one, was better than none. I kept bringing him to visit his grandparents and cousins, though each trip felt like walking into a battlefield. My sister's smug smiles, Beatrice's constant comparisons, Stanley's cold detachment. Still, Finn's joy at playing with his cousins kept me trying. I told myself I could absorb their cruelty and protect him from it. I was wrong. Before Hazel's birthday, Finn and I picked out a present together. In our small living room, he concentrated on wrapping a baseball playset for his cousin, his little fingers clumsy with the tape, but his face glowing with pride. "She's going to love it, Mom," he said, his voice full of hope. I smiled, though unease twisted in my chest. Every gathering at my parents' house meant enduring my sister's presence, and her presence always hurt. All I wanted was for Finn to enjoy a simple, happy day with his cousins. Yet underneath my determination, dread quietly simmered. I looked again at the modest gift we'd scraped together and knew, without a doubt, that my mother would find a way to measure it against whatever expensive thing my sister brought. Finn, blissfully unaware, bounced with excitement, clutching the box as if it were something magical. "Can I take my baseball cards to show everyone?" Finn asked, hugging the binder that held his most cherished collection. Those cards meant the world to him, each one representing a tiny piece of his childhood joy. I hesitated, an uneasy instinct tugging at me. Something inside whispered to leave them at home, but his pleading expression softened my resolve. "All right," I finally said, my voice firmer than I intended. "Just make sure you keep them with you." Finn nodded, eyes bright with excitement, swearing he'd be careful. A few days before, my sister had sent a message that still echoed in my mind. "There's something special planned for the party. Don't miss it." The words carried a sharp edge, deliberate and unsettling. I'd even overheard her whispering with Constance, her closest friend, earlier that week, their voices low and conspiratorial. "It'll be unforgettable," my sister had said, followed by laughter so chilling it lingered in my thoughts. I convinced myself I was imagining things, that she was simply being dramatic, as usual. Yet the unease clung to me like static in the air. That morning, as Finn and I prepared to leave for my parents' suburban Minnesota home, I kept a close eye on him. He carefully slid his binder of cards into his backpack, his little hands gentle with each motion. "Are you sure you want to bring them?" I asked again, hoping he'd change his mind. "Of course, Mom. My cousins will think they're awesome," he said with an infectious grin. I forced a smile, swallowing the knot of worry building in my chest. During the drive, Finn chattered endlessly about his favorite players, his voice light and happy, while my mind replayed my sister's text, the tone too smug, too calculated. What was she really planning? Why did I feel, deep down, that Finn was the one she meant to hurt? When we arrived, my mother's backyard was buzzing with laughter and the sounds of children on the swings, yet an uneasiness tugged at me with every passing minute. My sister arrived with Constance, both wearing those self-satisfied smirks that made my stomach twist. They floated through the guests like they owned the place, exchanging knowing glances that made my pulse quicken. My sister tossed her hair in that careless, superior way, while Constance trailed behind her, amusement flickering across her face. I held Finn's hand tightly, his backpack, with the binder inside, slung securely over his small shoulders. Soon he broke free to play with his cousins, eager and smiling. But the warmth of the moment shattered quickly. A boy his age snatched the baseball bat from him, shoving him aside with a sneer. "You don't need this anyway," the boy taunted. Then a younger girl giggled cruelly, pointing at him. "Look at his silly backpack," she shouted loud enough for nearby adults to glance over. Finn's shoulders drooped, but he forced a shaky smile, trying to laugh it off, pretending everything was fine. A heavy dread settled in my chest. My hands tightened into fists as I scanned the yard, hoping someone, anyone, would step in. My mother was across the lawn, laughing too loudly with guests to notice. My father hovered over the grill, eyes fixed on the sizzling meat, detached as ever. I kept my gaze on Finn, but my sister's voice drew my attention. She leaned close to Constance, her tone quiet but unmistakably deliberate, her eyes darting toward my son. "Just wait," she murmured, a cruel smile forming at the corner of her lips. Constance nodded, her phone already raised slightly, thumb hovering over the record button. My pulse spiked. I wanted to pull Finn close and leave right then, but he was already running off, desperate to join the others. I told myself to breathe, to stop imagining the worst, but the unease only deepened with every nervous glance he gave me. The play grew harsher. One of the boys shoved Finn down while chasing a ball, then doubled over laughing as Finn stumbled to his feet. "You're so slow," he jeered, tossing the ball to a girl who joined in his mockery. Finn clutched his backpack protectively, searching for me with wide eyes. I started forward, but my sister's voice sliced through the chatter, sugar-coated and venomous. "Let them play," she cooed, smiling with false warmth. Constance chuckled beside her, propping her phone in the grass, the lens aimed squarely at Finn. Around us, adults munched and chatted, oblivious. My mother waved dismissively when I voiced concern. "Kids will be kids," she said lightly. My father didn't even glance up. I hovered closer, every muscle tight with dread. Finn tried again to join the game, but the same boy blocked his path, shoving him hard. "You don't belong here." The words hit like a slap. The girl piled on with another sneer. "Why do you even try?" Finn's cheeks reddened as he wrapped his arms around the backpack, clutching it as if it were armor. I wanted to shout, to grab him and run, but I froze, torn between giving him a chance to fit in and protecting him from the cruelty unfolding before us. My sister caught my eye then, her smirk widening like a challenge. Constance remained motionless, her phone still trained on Finn, her expression hungry for whatever scene was about to unfold. Each giggle, each whispered word, twisted my stomach tighter. Finn tried to keep up his brave smile, though his eyes betrayed him. I edged closer, voice low and trembling. "Finn, stay near me." He nodded, but his cousins yanked him back into their circle, laughter sharp as glass. My sister leaned toward Constance again, whispering something I couldn't hear, both of them staring straight at my son. The dread that had been gnawing at me hardened into absolute certainty. Something terrible was unfolding, and I wasn't sure I could stop it. Then came a strangled cry from the small tent in the yard, so raw and frightened that it froze me in place. The noise of laughter and conversation faded into a distant hum as I tore across the lawn, my heart thundering in my ears. The tent flap hung open, and inside, under the muted glow, I found Finn crumpled on the ground, his tiny body shaking. His face was blotched red, a dark bruise spreading across one cheek, his clothes smeared with dirt and streaks of frosting. All around him lay the remains of his baseball cards, ripped, bent, trampled into the grass and crumbs. My legs nearly gave way as I dropped beside him, my trembling hand brushing his shoulder. "Finn, honey, what happened?" I whispered, my voice splintering. He looked up, eyes swollen and wet, his fear so deep it hollowed me out. "Mom, please don't say anything," he choked, his voice barely audible. "They'll just hate me more." The words struck harder than any blow. His small hands clung to my arm, pleading for silence. I pulled him close, his sobs muffled against my chest, each sound tearing through me. The fragments of his ruined collection, even his prized rookie card, lay scattered in the dirt. That simple joy he'd guarded so fiercely was destroyed. Yet what broke me most was his terror of being hated, of making things worse. My vision blurred with rage and grief, but before I could speak, his trembling voice came again. "Please, Mom, don't tell anyone. Please." The fear in him wasn't exaggeration. It was survival. I swallowed the scream rising in my throat, forcing myself to hold him instead. "I'm here, sweetheart. You're safe," I murmured, stroking his hair. Then came the sound that made my blood run cold, a cruel, mocking laugh just beyond the tent. I turned, and there she was. My sister stood with her arms folded, a satisfied smirk curling her lips. Beside her, Constance held up her phone, the red recording light blinking like an accusation. "What a performance," my sister sneered, her tone dripping with contempt. "Didn't think he'd cry that much." Constance giggled, tilting her phone to capture every second, her eyes shining with malicious glee. Rage flooded through me. I rose to my feet, shielding Finn with my body, my hands clenched so tightly they hurt. "What did you do?" I demanded, my voice low and shaking with fury. My sister only rolled her eyes, her smirk deepening. "Relax, Elaine. It was just a game. Kids get carried away." Her words landed like a slap. Constance laughed again, still filming, her mockery blending with my sister's. Every instinct in me screamed to protect my son, to end their cruelty right there, whatever it took. "This isn't a game," I snapped, my voice cutting through the noise. "He's hurt, and his cards are destroyed." Finn tugged at my sleeve, his voice barely audible. "Mom, don't. They'll just laugh more." His quiet plea froze me in place. The fear in his tone, that awful fear of being humiliated again, hit harder than any insult could. I turned toward him, sinking to my knees, my heart breaking at the sight of his bruised face. "We're going home," I whispered, steadying my voice as I helped him scoop up the shredded remains of his beloved cards. Behind us came my sister's mocking laughter, light and sing-song. "Such drama," she chimed, her tone soaked in cruelty. Constance's phone stayed trained on us, its red light blinking, capturing every moment of our humiliation. I took Finn's trembling hand in mine and led him out of the tent, his backpack now heartbreakingly empty. The party went on as if nothing had happened, my mother still laughing with her friends, my father flipping burgers at the grill, oblivious. I held Finn close, my thoughts spinning, fury and disbelief tangling into something dark. This wasn't childish teasing. It was targeted, vicious, and I knew deep down it wouldn't stop here. Anger surged through me. With Finn's hands still in mine, I strode across the yard toward my sister. The laughter still echoed behind us, her smirk still fixed in place as she stood near Constance by the picnic tables, basking in her own cruelty. Around us, guests continued to chat and eat, unaware of the storm about to break. I stopped inches away, trembling with fury. "How could you let this happen?" I demanded, my fist tight at my side. She tilted her head, her expression dripping with contempt. "You're just like Mom. A failure," she spat, each word slicing through me like a knife. I saw Finn shrink beside me, his small shoulders curling inward. Something inside me snapped. Before I could think, my hand struck her across the face. The sound sharp, final. Gasps rippled through the party. Heads turned, but I didn't care. My sister's head jerked sideways, her hand flying to her cheek, the arrogance wiped from her expression, replaced by shock. Constance stumbled back, phone still raised, its red recording light blinking steadily. "You've gone too far," I said, my voice quieter now, but solid as stone. Finn clung to me, trembling, but I stood my ground, meeting my sister's gaze. Her composure returned quickly, a sneer twisting her lips. "Always the drama queen," she hissed, brushing her cheek as if the slap meant nothing, though I saw it, the brief flicker of fear behind her eyes. Then came my mother's shrill voice cutting through the murmurs. Beatrice stormed forward, fury etched into her features. "Elaine, what on earth is wrong with you?" she barked, pulling every eye in the yard toward us. Beatrice's gaze flicked to Finn, her expression hardening into something cold. "So this is about that unwanted child again, isn't it? Always stirring up drama, each word landed like a blade, precise and cruel." Finn let out a small gasp, his fingers digging into my hand until it hurt. I drew him close, wrapping my arms protectively around him as my heart broke at the sight of his terrified face. "Don't you dare call him that!" I snapped, my voice trembling but fierce. "He's my son, and he deserves far better than your cruelty." For a moment, my mother's eyes widened, but she quickly masked it, folding her arms tightly across her chest. My father, still by the grill, didn't move or speak. His silence stung as deeply as her words. Whispers rippled through the guests, but I barely heard them. All that mattered was the trembling child beside me and the fury building inside. Constance still stood nearby, her smile fixed and predatory, her phone aimed at us as if it were a show. "Give me that video," I said sharply, stepping toward her, "or you'll regret it." Her grin faltered, but she held on to the phone with white-knuckled defiance. My hands shook as I pulled out my own phone, snapping photos of Finn's bruised cheek, his filthy shirt, the dirt on his knees, every visible mark of what they had done. "This will be proof," I warned, locking eyes with Constance. My sister laughed bitterly behind her. "You're humiliating yourself again," she taunted, waving a dismissive hand. But I was finished playing the victim in their twisted games. I crouched beside Finn, softening my tone. "We're going home, sweetheart," I whispered. He gave a small nod, pale but trusting, his little hand gripping mine tightly. We walked through the crowd, ignoring the stares and murmurs. My sister's voice followed us, cutting and mocking. "Run away, just like always." I didn't look back. In the car, I buckled Finn in. He held his empty backpack close to his chest, the silence between us heavy. My heart clenched as I took more photos, each bruise, each smudge, committing them to record and to memory. Then, with shaking hands, I called Deborah, my lawyer. She answered almost immediately, her tone calm but alert. "Elaine, what happened?" I met Finn's reflection in the rearview mirror, his head bowed low. "They hurt him," I said, my voice breaking. "My sister and Constance, they let it happen, maybe even planned it. I've got photos, and Constance filmed everything. I want to press charges," I continued, the steel returning to my voice. "Assault, emotional trauma, everything we can." Deborah's tone shifted into sharp professionalism. "Send me the evidence," she said. "If that video exists, it could make the case. I'll start the filings immediately." I nodded to myself, determination settling deep in my chest. For the first time that day, the fear began to give way, replaced by resolve. "I'm taking him to the doctor right now. They won't get away with this." I ended the call and turned all my attention to Finn. "Mom, are we going to be okay?" he asked quietly, his voice barely a whisper. I reached back, squeezing his small hand. "We'll be better than okay, sweetheart," I told him, steady and certain. "They're going to pay for what they did." As I drove, the glow of the party lights disappeared in the mirror, but my determination only burned brighter. Between the photos and that video, there would be justice. Real, undeniable justice. For my son. The following morning, Beatrice appeared at my door holding a small gift box, her expression tight, her usual poise cracked by guilt. "Elaine, can we talk?" she said softly, extending the box like a peace offering. I stood firm in the doorway, Finn hidden behind me, his wary eyes peeking out. The memory of her words, calling my son an unwanted child, still seared my chest. "There's nothing left to say," I replied, my tone cold and final. "You already made your choice." Her eyes widened, but I shut the door before she could answer. My heart raced, torn between the sting of defiance and the relief of protecting my child. His safety mattered more than her remorse. Days later, the fallout began. Constance's video had gone public, leaked by one of the guests who'd grown sick of my sister's arrogance. The footage was damning. Beatrice laughing while Finn cried, her cruelty immortalized for everyone to see. The internet exploded. The polished image she'd carefully built as a gracious real estate agent crumbled overnight. Clients canceled listings, her colleagues distanced themselves, and the same community that once praised her now condemned her ruthlessly. Deborah moved fast, filing the lawsuit for assault and emotional distress. The evidence, Finn's injuries, the recordings, the photos, was irrefutable. Beatrice's frantic voicemails flooded my inbox, full of tears and excuses, but I deleted each one without listening. Justice was already closing in. From then on, I focused only on helping Finn heal. The bruises faded, but his silence lingered, heavy and unsettling. I took him to Dr. Larson, a gentle child psychologist who helped him find his voice again. "I think if I stay quiet, people will like me more," he whispered during one session. The words broke me, but I squeezed his hand, promising he would never face cruelty like that again. At home, we began to rebuild. Gary, my ex-husband, started calling every evening, teaching Finn baseball tips over the phone. Each call brought back a spark of joy to my son's eyes. Our friends Theo and Evelyn wrapped us in kindness. Theo took Finn to the batting cages, cheering every hit, while Evelyn invited us for dinner, filling our little apartment with laughter and warmth. One night, as we all sat together, Finn told Theo about a new pitcher he admired, his voice bright and full of excitement, the sound of a child rediscovering his joy, piece by piece. Watching Finn that day, my heart swelled with cautious hope. Each small victory, each smile, felt like a thread mending what had once been torn inside him. On a cool, sunny afternoon, I took him to our neighborhood baseball card shop, the same one where his love for the game had begun. His eyes sparkled as he scanned the glossy rows of cards until he spotted one that made him gasp. A rookie card. "Mom, can we get this one?" he asked, his voice bubbling with excitement. I smiled and placed the money on the counter. "You've earned it, sweetheart," I said, gently ruffling his hair. Outside, Finn hugged the pack against his chest, his steps lighter than I'd seen in months. It was as though he had finally set down the weight he'd been carrying. Therapy with Dr. Larson continued, each session helping him peel back another layer of fear. "He's remarkably resilient," Dr. Larson told me once, "but your love, that's what keeps him grounded." I poured every bit of myself into him, reading bedtime stories, cheering from the sidelines, listening when he whispered his worries late at night. Gary even joined one of the sessions. His steady presence helped rebuild the fragile bridge between father and son. Theo and Evelyn invited us to a picnic, where Finn chased a ball across the grass with other kids, laughter spilling out of him. Bright, unguarded, and real. With every day, his confidence returned, and his joy felt less like recovery and more like rebirth. Meanwhile, my sister's world unraveled completely. Deborah pressed forward with the lawsuit, demanding full accountability. The viral video had destroyed Beatrice's reputation, her name now synonymous with cruelty. When she called me, her voice shaky and desperate, I ended the call without hesitation. Pity had no place left in my heart. All that mattered was Finn, and the quiet, steady life we were building with the help of those who truly cared. Weeks later, his smile came easily again, his chatter about baseball filling our small apartment with warmth. He taped a new card to his bedroom wall, calling it his fresh start. One night, I stood by his bed, watching him sleep, the peaceful rhythm of his breathing soft against the quiet. Strength welled up inside me, calm, certain. We were healing together, leaving behind the darkness of that day for good. Months later, Finn stepped onto the baseball field, confident and radiant. His glove fit perfectly, his stance sure, his gaze focused on the game ahead. From the bleachers, I watched as the crowd's cheers rose around him, my heart swelling with pride. He had come so far, no longer the trembling boy from that tent, but a young athlete burning with determination. When the case finally concluded, Deborah presented the photos and the video in court, irrefutable proof of my sister's cruelty. The judge granted a restraining order, forbidding her from contacting either of us. Her reputation, already shattered by the viral exposure, disintegrated completely. Her once glittering career reduced to nothing but silence and isolation. I didn't feel victorious, only relieved. Finn was safe, and the truth had prevailed. Justice, I realized, wasn't revenge. It was freedom. I blocked Beatrice's number, and eventually the calls stopped. Her voice, and the chaos she brought, faded out of our lives for good. The voicemails she left, full of excuses and shallow remorse, went unheard. I owed her nothing, not after what she'd done to my son. Blood no longer defined what family meant to me. Family was built by the ones who stayed, who showed up when everything fell apart. Gary, Evelyn, and Theo had become our foundation, the steady anchors that kept us grounded. With their support, Finn began to flourish again. At school, he joined the baseball team, earning his place through hard work and quiet determination. His coach praised his quick reflexes, and his teammates began to chant his name with pride. One sunny afternoon, Gary took Finn to practice, tossing pitch after pitch while Finn swung with growing confidence. "You've got real talent, kid," Gary said, smiling wide. Finn's laughter carried across the field, pure and light. Moments like that, filled with belief and encouragement, helped him bloom into himself again. Evelyn and Theo never wavered. Evelyn baked the cookies Finn adored, filling our apartment with their warm, sweet scent, while Theo shared stories about his own childhood games, inspiring new dreams in Finn's young heart. At the team's cookout, Finn ran freely with his friends, laughter bubbling out of him, joy unrestrained. I watched from the sidelines, my chest glowing with gratitude. These were the people who had chosen to love us. They were the family we were meant to have. One evening, Finn sat at the kitchen table, arranging his baseball cards with careful precision. "Mom, I'm glad we have each other," he said quietly, but with conviction. I knelt beside him, resting my hand on his shoulder. "Me too, sweetheart," I whispered. "Family is the people who protect you, the ones who lift you up." Finn nodded, understanding more than any child should have to. That night, when I tucked him into bed, he wrapped his arms tightly around my neck, a hug filled with trust and peace. I held him close, knowing that we had finally stepped out of the darkness. The court's decision had sealed our protection. The video that once symbolized his pain had become the very proof that set us free. The weight of my mother's judgment and my sister's cruelty was gone. Beatrice's betrayal had revealed something I would never forget. Family isn't defined by shared blood, but by shared love. It's made of those who stay when it would be easier to walk away. As Finn's baseball season rolled on, I cheered at every game, my voice echoing alongside Gary's and Theo's. Evelyn's laughter filled the stands as she passed out cookies to the kids. And when Finn hit a double, his teammates swarmed him, their cheers rising into the bright afternoon air. I clapped until my palms burned, smiling so hard it hurt. He wasn't the frightened boy I'd found crying in that tent anymore. He was Finn, strong, confident, and surrounded by love. Looking back, I could see how far we'd come. The pain of that day hadn't broken us. It had forged us into something unshakable. I had learned to release the people who wounded us and to build a home with those who loved us without conditions. Finn had discovered that he was enough, that his worth was never tied to anyone else's approval. Together, we found our strength and created a family out of choice, not obligation. As the sun dipped below the horizon, its warm glow spilling across the baseball field, Finn turned toward me, raising his glove high in triumph. I waved back, my heart brimming with love and pride. Family isn't defined by blood. It's the people who protect you, who believe in you, who stay. And finally, we had found ours.